Hey guys, welcome to the Gods Unchained beta with the Professor. Alright, it's time for our Monday Mythic meta for the ranked weekend event that ran on October 29th, 30th, and 31st. Let's look at our results. Here we have our top 20 players. We can see two players managed 24 wins, almost a perfect weekend. Ayo, look at number 2 here. Had a really good weekend with my deck, managing 24 wins. So quite a good performance for me, and I'm very happy of that. We have several players with 23 wins, and then we have an overlap and tie at 21 wins going over the 10th position. So when the official results are published later this week, we'll see who gets the 10th position here for the extra prizes. Let's go into more details. Our top 20 representation shows that War had 6 players in the top 20, followed by Deception with 5 players in the top 20. We have Light with 3, Magic and Nature had 2 each, and we did not have a top 20 player that played Death. In our top 10, Deception took 1st, 4th, 7th, and 8th. War took 2nd, 3rd, and 9th. Light took 5th and 10th, and Magic claimed the 6th spot. For our number of wins, we had a War and Deception deck with 24 wins, followed by Magic and Light with 23 wins. The best Nature deck managed 21 wins, and the best Death deck that I found managed 19 wins. Looking at our deck types, 13 of our top 20 players played an aggro deck, followed by 5 players played a control deck, and we had 2 players that played a mid-range deck. Let's look at our top decks in more details. Our best Deception deck managed 24 wins. This one's a controlled Deception deck with the Flip God Power. The deck specializes in control and stalling the game. You have sleep and stall cards like Spellbound, Stoneskin Poison, Sleep Dart, Hunting Trap, Umber Arrow, the Bronze Gate, Inconspicuous Carriage, Avatar of Deception, Ransom, and then you have your mass control cards like Elixir of the Panther, Exercise, Elixir of the Snake, Rapture Dance, Toast of Peace, and Orpheus Guile, and Demogorgon. You're looking to make it into the later turns where you could utilize your value cards of Jason and Polyhymnia. One call out as well is that the Elixir of the Panther does have 2 options where you can also add copies of your enemy's creatures that's on the board to your hand. So a little bit of value generation there. Our best War deck this week was from yours truly. I played an aggro Slayer deck. As you can see, it's a fairly low curve deck, topping out at 4 mana. With this deck, you're looking to control and fight for the board early on, and as soon as you have control, you're then looking to translate all that control into direct face damage, and also being generous with your Slayer God Power. Some key cards for this deck are Valka's Captain, the Boilblood Outlaw, the Relic of Blade of Styx, and I think the 2 most important cards are Another Round and the Archangel Bruiser. One thing to note about this deck is besides the 2 Pyramid Wardens, most of the cards are fairly cheap to acquire. Also, this is not the final version of the deck. I am running some of these cards because I am lacking some other cards. If another player out there wants to run a similar type of deck and they have access to better cards, some suggestions I could recommend is an Out of Misery, Master Tactician, Thundercaller, and Audi. So these 4 cards could definitely fit into the deck and make improvements for better performance. Our best Light deck managed 23 wins. This one's an aggro Zoo Light deck with the Summon Acolyte God Power. You have the usual Light cards like Cudgel of Atonement, Light's Levy, Master of Indulgences, CERN, Canonize, Asterius, Pyramid Wardens. Some things to note that we don't usually see in a Zoo Light deck is we have Deuteria here, and we also have 2 copies of the Hunt Warden. And another card that I've been seeing a little bit of, and I think is a fairly good fit, is the Helios Justicar. This one's a 5 mana 4/5. At the start of each turn, it gives a random enemy creature order for that turn. So it works both on your turn and in the opponent's turn. Our best Magic deck finished with 23 wins. This one's an aggro Magic deck using the Mage Bolt God Power. This one's a fairly low curve deck. You're utilizing cheap creatures and removal spells to control the board and do continuous damage over time. You have strong removal spells like Ancient Text, Star Shard Bolt, Tracking Bolt, and the Vow of Learning. The Vow of Learning is a very flexible card that gives you several options to choose from depending on what you need. The key cards to this deck is really the Oni Spellsword and the Miraculous Familiar. The Oni Spellsword has Ward, and every time you play a card, it gains +1 strength and also gives one of your creatures with the lowest health Ward. The other key card is the Miraculous Familiar. This card is a 3 mana 3/3 that has Bless, and once the Familiar is on the board, every time you play your first spell of the turn, you are given a random spell to your hand, so a good way to refill. Currently, there's a strange interaction between Miraculous Familiar and the Vow of Learning, where if you have the Miraculous Familiar and you play the Vow of Learning, instead of getting one spell, you are given 2 spells back to your hand. You have Palace's Wand for additional card draw, and of course you have direct damage burn with Worm Breath. Our best nature deck managed 21 wins. This one's an aggro nature deck with the Animal Bond God Power. You have your usual strong nature cards like Chiron, Marshwalker, Underbrush Boar, Black Jaguar, Canopy Barrage, Finian Fruitbearer. This one curves out fairly well. You're looking at Pyramid Wardens, Rabbit Bear, Overgrown Rhino with the Jaguar Staff. And a card that we haven't seen played much before is the Sudden Bloom, a 6 mana card spell that gives a random friendly creature +5/+5. And if you happen to be frenzied when you play this card, it will also give that creature Overkill and Twin Strike. Our best death deck is a control death deck with the Blood Ritual God Power. This one managed 19 wins and did not make it into the top 20, but 19 wins is a solid performance. You have your stall and removal cards with Siren of the Grave, Sulfuric Rain, Blight Bomb, Eva, Baroness of the Dead, and Bronze Gate. You then transition to removals with Reap, Apocalypse Now, End Times, Demogorgon. You have your Void interaction with Canopic Hoarder, Sand Scorpion, and you're looking to get to the end game to utilize your Jason and Polyhymnia value. Taking a look at our weekend snapshot at the Mythic level, Deception comes in with the highest win rate, 53%, and also a good representation at 15% of the meta. Deception has a positive win rate across the board, 50-50 versus War, and an under 50% win rate versus Magic. War comes in second with a 52% win rate and a huge portion of the representation at 32%. War also has positive win rates across 4 gods with an under 50% win rate versus Magic. We have 2 other gods with over 50% win rate with Magic and Light and decent representation at 13 and 12%. The lowest represented god is Death at 7%, but Death does have a positive win rate over Nature. And at the bottom of our list, with the second largest representation but the lowest win rate, we have Nature, which is unfavorable matchups across all 5 gods. Okay, updating our top 10 scoreboard with results from last week. We can see that Vloskill has taken the #1 spot. Vloskill was able to land a top 10 spot last week, jumping over Mirage, taking the #1 spot. Mirage has been fairly dormant the last few weeks, so he drops down. Idiot Mouse also moves up a spot with a good performance last week in the control meta. Octavus V2 drops down. We have a new entry in the top 20, Midnight, jumping in right at number 20 and pushing everyone down 1 spot accordingly. All right, here's our list of top players again. Congratulations on the great performance, and good luck on your packs when you receive them later this week.